All right, so we talk a lot about political corruption on this channel, and that's because in the United States, we basically have a system of legalized bribery whereby politicians are able to take donations from wealthy individuals and corporations, and then they take those donations essentially, like I said, as bribes, and then they go and they affect change on the legislative agenda on behalf of those corporations and wealthy individuals instead of who they are actually supposed to be representing in a representative democracy, which is their constituents, the people as a whole. And Kyrsten Sinema here, who has been obviously in the news a lot recently, we've been talking about her as one of the most conservative, the most corrupt members of the Democratic Party. And she really just lays it out on the line here and makes it explicitly perfectly clear who she serves and how her corruption is dictating how she is voting. Specifically, she's talking about the PRO Act in this clip, and the PRO Act would be one of the most impactful and influential pieces of legislation for the labor movement in this country that we've seen in literally decades. It would be totally transformative for workers and their ability to form unions and therefore be able to collectively bargain for better pay and better benefits. It would be a massively good and massively important piece of legislation. Obviously, she opposes it because her corporate donors do, and she just lays this out on the line here, right out in the open, talking about her corruption.
There is some concern right now in the business community, as you've probably heard, an issue that our friends at the Arizona chapter of the Associated General Contractors wanted me to bring up with you, that there's a bill that passed the House, the PRO Act. Give us a sense, as this bill makes its way to the Senate, where you intend to be on this. We know it's an evolving issue, and if you'd be willing to have a discussion with employers in Arizona about our concerns about this bill being a disruption to the workplace and to our business environment.
Well, I would welcome such a discussion. As folks who are listening today know, the way I make decisions on behalf of Arizona and for our constituents is by listening to the business leaders who will be impacted by these decisions. So I want to discuss this legislation, and I want to know the impact it would have on Arizona jobs and the economy. Now, there hasn't been any movement on the PRO Act yet in the United States Senate, but I can tell you that many Arizona businesses have already reached out to my office, and I know have discussed the concerns that they have with the PRO Act with some of the folks who are on our call today. Now, right now, this legislation is not scheduled to come before the full Senate, but we are watching carefully because some of the PRO Act provisions, especially in regards to the worker classification test for independent contractors, could become a part of other legislative ideas. So I would ask all the members who are joining us today to please stay involved with my office and help me by sharing information about how this would impact you and your company so that I can go back to Senate leadership and folks on both sides of the aisle to discuss the concerns that Arizona businesses have.
I mean, oh my God, she admitted.
Oh my God, he admitted.
Right? I mean, this is exactly like the fucking meme that we talk about all the time. She just admits, she says the quiet part out loud. And listen, I don't know if she thought that this specific clip was not going to be available to a broader audience, to the general public, and I assume that she didn't. But it's good that we have this clip, and the first thing that this made me think about is we need to be having clips or videos of every single meeting that these politicians are having, whether it's behind closed doors. There should not be such a thing as having closed door meetings with your corrupt donors that are using you as an avenue to influence the legislative agenda over the will of the American people. We should have access to all of these types of videos that we just saw here. But I mean, again, she just fucking admitted it. I mean, she just admits out in the open, yes, I'm corrupt. Yes, I'm making my decisions on this legislation, the PRO Act, on behalf of the businesses and only the businesses, not actually what my constituents themselves want. I mean, this is fucking egregious. There's not much else you can say about it. It's just brazen corruption. It's out in the open corruption. It says a lot about our political system that they're even allowed to say this without being criminally liable. I mean, this type of shit should be illegal. It should be illegal for you to be taking bribes from corporations and from wealthy individuals and then acting on behalf of those businesses instead of acting on behalf of the people who you actually represent, which is supposed to be, again, her entire constituency in a broader scope. And I bet that her constituency in a broader scope would support something like the PRO Act. Arizona does have very low union participation compared to the rest of the United States, which in and of itself, the United States has very low labor participation. But that's exactly why something like the PRO Act would be so hugely important, okay? I cannot overstate the importance of passing the PRO Act, okay? The fact that Kyrsten Sinema hates the PRO Act and the fact that she just explicitly told you that she is only representing the corporate side of this equation should tell you how important and how impactful the PRO Act would actually be. It would, again, it's called the Protect the Right to Organize Act. So what would it do? It has a lot of different provisions in it. It basically would eliminate right to work states, which, as Kyle Kalinske famously always points out, right to work states are just right to work for less states. And it has a bunch of other provisions that would protect workers who are attempting to unionize their workplace, protect them from some of the recent examples that we just saw with Amazon cracking down on the union attempt in Bessemer, Alabama. We just saw all of the egregious things that Amazon was doing to crack down on that union, and all of the anti-union tactics, the propaganda, and all of the things that were associated with that unionization attempt. And it would crack down on corporations who participate in similar anti-union practices, and would make those criminal. Because yes, of course workers should have the right to organize. Of course they should be protected in the right to organize, because this is how, unions are how, American workers, or workers in general, have a say under a capitalist system, okay? I'm a socialist. I inevitably want to move past just having unions and having a bartering system between collective bargaining of workers and the corporate side of this. I'm a socialist, so obviously I support things like worker co-ops and inevitably moving in that direction. But unions are the first step in this process, okay? Unions are hugely impactful. It is an absolute verified fact that unionized workers have better pay and better benefits on average. And so, of course, somebody like Kyrsten Sinema would oppose this. Now, Joe Manchin has said he is on board with the PRO Act, and he has co-signed onto that. And if they are going to try to pass this through the process of budget reconciliation, which I'm not sure that they will, if they were to pass it through the process of budget reconciliation, then we only have about 3 more senators, including Kyrsten Sinema, who are currently opposing or blocking this from being passed. And so we got to get them on board. And how do we do that? We do that by doing exactly what we're doing right now. We expose their corruption. Okay, so what we actually should be doing, instead of, as Kyrsten Sinema was recommending in this clip, instead of having business leaders call Kyrsten Sinema, how about we go ahead and we have us and leftists and her constituents call her instead and demand that she support the PRO Act. So I'm going to put the information down below as to how you can contact her offices and just absolutely bombard her with phone calls or emails or whatever you can do in order to pressure her to try to get on board with the PRO Act. Because this type of corruption, although it is legal, again, under our system of legalized bribery here in the United States, it's completely unacceptable. And they're just saying the quiet part out loud now. I mean, they're just rubbing it in your face with their corruption. Kyrsten Sinema obviously, did her little cutesy thumbs down on the $15 minimum wage. So she is massively corrupt. Seriously, one of the most corrupt senators in the entire country. She doesn't support Medicare for all. She doesn't support Green New Deal. She doesn't support free college. She doesn't support a $15 minimum wage. She doesn't support the PRO Act. She is literally just a hollow, corrupt, vapid ghoul who doesn't represent anything other than corporate interests. So we have to oppose her. Go and bombard her office with all of these calls and emails that you can do. And yeah, I mean, this is just, it's hilarious because they're not even hiding it anymore. I mean, she admitted.